What the city is talking about. This is Montreal Now on News Talk Radio, CJAD 800.
The conservative that's running is stupidly no friend of mine. I don't know him, but he said negative things. So when he says negative things, I couldn't care less. I think it's easier to deal, actually, with a liberal. And maybe they're going to win, but I don't really care. It doesn't matter to me at all.
Yesterday, the president said that having a liberal prime minister would be easier for him to deal with, just as he threatened once again to make us the 51st state. And you know what? On that point, it's true. I'm a strong leader. I'm a tough guy to deal with. I'm firm in my convictions, and I'll always put Canada first.
Yeah, I don't know. I hear that, and I think to myself, if you had to say that, that kind of spoils it. Hey, James Mennie at the Montreal Gazette's on the line. So, Jim, let's kind of put that into the old blender here and see what comes out.
First of all, get yourself some hand cleanser and use it, because you just literally reached in and pulled the words right out of my mouth. When you got to tell people you're a tough guy, you ain't no tough guy. Yeah. And the whole idea, this ridiculous mise en scène, where in this country, and it's been clear, the initial analysis to our upcoming federal election is going to be, who does Donald Trump hate more? Who does Donald Trump hate less? Who does he think he can manipulate easier? And right now, it's all hands on deck. It's red alert for the Conservatives across the board now. They're tanking in the polls, and all this is based on the actions of the guy whose voice we just heard. Now, an astounding coincidence. Donald Trump decides to say, after reviling Governor Trudeau and saying Canada should be the 51st state, and you can't trust the guy, you can't trust Canadians, and you can't trust this, and we're bad people, we lie, and all that. All of a sudden, he has decided that between the Conservatives and the Liberals, he'd be happier dealing with the Liberals. Now, I guess he figured a lot of people just slap their foreheads up in Canada and say, "Ooh, I better vote Conservative for that guy, eh? Because he likes them Liberals over there." And remember, this is a guy who, before he made that comment, one of his aides had to say, "Remember, sir, the blue ones are Conservatives, the red ones are Liberals." Okay, but this, honest to God, Aaron. They haven't even called the election. They're saying the call's going to be made on Sunday. And I got no skin in this game. People who listen to the show know I had no use for Poilievre or Trudeau. But I got to tell you, I can smell the panic through my computer from the Conservative side. They clearly have been caught short by the advent of Mark Carney, by the advent of Mad King Trump, as our friend Tom Mulcair likes to call him. They don't know what to do. So the idea right now is grab this idea that Pierre Poilievre, who has spent most of the time that I can remember saying how this country is broken, is falling apart, it's ruined, okay, and saying that, basically Canadians aren't too bright and Americans have been running rings around us, suddenly discovers he is Captain Canada. Yeah. He is the guy who's going to save us. And I if I care, I'm like Donald Trump, right? See, I don't really care. But if I did care, I'd be a bit insulted by the fact that someone thinks I'm so breathtakingly stupid that I will completely forget what they've been saying for the past, 6 years, and essentially sort of like, oh well, let's turn around and go with the other guy. All that to tell you, I think I know we've said this in the past too, Aaron, but you know what? I think this is going to be so big-time ugly, this campaign, that no one's going to have anything left to lose, certainly the Conservatives. This is it for the Conservatives, by the way. I don't want to go into my other cassette. We'll save that for another day. But I tell you right now, it's all on the line for this iteration of the Conservative Party of Canada. And if they blow this one, I got to tell you, there's going to be some major demolition work done, but they know it's all on the line. So expect things to be nasty. I, for one, am not at all surprised by the fact that Poilievre has kicked reporters off of the campaign bus, if you will, off the campaign plane. Clearly, he and his handlers are going to need to control the message as much as possible. Given the job they're doing thus far, they need all the help they can get. Personally, I got to tell you, Aaron, as a journalist, I'm not that insulted or outraged by their announcement. I think in this day and age, it's kind of quaint that maybe 6 or 7 journalists from the parliamentary bureaus get to determine what gets covered and what doesn't get covered in a federal election campaign. But all that said, Aaron, there is a real, as far as I'm concerned, I'm getting real sonar readings of absolute panic from the Poilievre camp. And that may change. That maybe they'll turn around. Maybe we'll discover that Mark Carney keeps tripping over his own feet, although right now he's been getting some very, very good advice. Right now he's been getting all the headlines, all the right headlines that you want. And right now he's enjoying that honeymoon period. So as I say, if they call the election on Sunday, I, for one, think that the smart move would be to make it as short a campaign as possible. Just keep hammering away at the Conservatives. But in that period of time, I think we should really put on our hazmat suits and our protective goggles there, Aaron, because there's going to be a lot of stuff flying around on this campaign, and it ain't going to be pretty.
Jim, can I just ask, with respect to this announcement by the party that the mainstream media, if you want to call them that, will not be allowed to be on the bus or on the plane with them, whatever. Does that not sort of follow the playbook of the Trump administration?
Absolutely.
Basically putting them as the enemy.
Absolutely. Pierre Poilievre already accused Bell Media, of all places, of being a paid mouthpiece for the Trudeau administration, because a lot of media outlets, my own Post Media as well, receives funding from the federal government. And you're talking to a guy, this, we've talked about this, my God, maybe years ago. I do not like the idea of taking one penny from the government. But all that said, it's there. Everyone's getting it. But to turn around and make that suggestion, he didn't use the words enemy of the people, at least not yet, Aaron.
Yeah.
But all that said, it's clear. He is setting the table, as we say in these parts, to have make it clear that the, how can I put it, the media will fill the role of some kind of, mustache twirling villain. I'm not sure there's going to be a lot of up in your face accusations, but the bottom line, I think, in all of this is, like I say, it's going to be ugly. I don't think there's going to be any prisoners taken in this campaign, and we're seeing it now. And the fact that Donald Trump got involved this early, and some people actually, seriously, with a straight face on, they're saying this constitutes interference in Canadian politics. I'm not really sure that qualifies, but all that said, it's very interesting to actually hear the words conservative and liberal come out of Trump's head talking about Canada last night on Fox.
Yeah, to your point, Jim, it might be interference, or potentially, if he had any idea what Canadian politics are really about, I don't think it does. So, all right, let's talk provincially here. The Saclick fiasco, capital F for fiasco, getting bigger all the time, although I heard today Premier Legault saying, no, he stands by François Bonnardel, who apparently we found out knew what was happening.
And this is a problem because above and beyond everything else, I mean, I should be happy. This is how my business works. Somebody in there, it's not just, this began with the Auditor General, pointing out what a disaster this program was and how it's like $1 billion. It's way over $500 million over budget. Someone inside the Legault government is leaking like a sieve, because the whole thing with Bonnardel is he said from the get-go, I was not given the proper information. I did not know what was going on. And now Le Devoir is reporting since 2021. Remember, we only found out this year what a disaster was. He knew that, according to Le Devoir, that there were cost overruns in 2021. So, and now he's saying, well, I want to talk. I want to defend myself, but I can't because of this public inquiry, and I can't talk before that, and blah, blah, blah. All that said, a lot of stink coming off of this, and clearly they want to get this off the table. They want to get this settled by December of this year. That's the mandate for the public inquiry. I'm sure a lot of it's going to take place over the course of the summer, where a lot of people won't be paying that much attention. But as I say, Aaron, every single day there's some new reason for the CAC basically to pull up stakes, pack the car and ride off into the sunset. I don't see them sticking around in the next election. I don't see Legault hanging around. The news just goes from bad to worse. And the polls, God help us, I don't even know where the polls are going to be the next time Leger decides to fire one off. But I'll go out on a limb, Aaron, and say the news is going to be terribly, terribly bad for the CAC.
Yeah, we're going to have another by-election, as it turns out, right? A former CACist who's now an independent going to federal politics. That'll make another one.
Well, although, you know what, I got to tell you, it's so funny. I know they have to call it, but the timing is so lousy because it's got to be done in 6 months. Yeah. And it's Eric Lefebvre. And even our friend, James, head of the Quebec Conservative Party, said he's not going to run because it's kind of crazy, because it's going to be so close to the general election, which is going to be held in October of next year. that a lot of people simply won't be paying attention. But all that said, this is it's not looking good for the CAQ. And I know there one bunch of guys already wrote one book saying, it was the third way. It was a real watershed moment in Quebec political history. What we're seeing right now is another watershed moment in Quebec political history, insofar as the meteoric rise and equally dramatic fall of the Coalition Avenir Quebec. And I tell you, in the end, for a party that wasted no time pointing the finger at everybody else for all the problems in Quebec, they have no one to blame for this but themselves.
Jim started the show today by asking about this decision yesterday by the city to limit Airbnb rentals to literally only 3 months of the year, and they just happen to be in the summer. I'm curious what you think about this. Look, I get the part about Airbnb and other cities having basically done the same thing, but no one, I don't think, has taken it to this extent. What do you think?
I think, your property is your property. And if you want to, rent it out, you should be able to rent it out. And I think the city might be overstepping its bounds. I don't know. We might be talking about the court case against us down the road. But in the end, it just seems to be one of those ideas where government thinks it should be regulating, but it can't figure out how. And this idea of just having it in the summer, I think, is a bit preposterous, because all you're going to be doing is putting the price on Airbnbs in Montreal through the roof in that very, very brief period of time.
We will leave it there. Jim, thank you.
Demain.